Your strategy has to involve your mindset, and your strategy then involves the actions that you take to move you from where you are to where you want to be.
I'll start with what Visa isn't, right? Visa doesn't issue credit card. We don't issue credit. So Visa doesn't do that, which surprises a lot of people.
We'll use a phrase like, well, things changed, but things don't change. People change things. All the legislation that has been passed, somebody advocated for that. And so International Women's Day is to commemorate that history of women making change.
Several of the banks have started to migrate their existing debit card portfolio to chip and pin EMV technology. So the SMEs are going to benefit from a wide range of customers who previously did not have a credit card, but only had a debit card.
The one thing that I would like persons to first understand is you control your entire financial ecosystem. So the first thing is to understand your credit card limit and your interest rate, because credit card debt is the most expensive debt there is, because it's basically like an unsecured loan, right? And you're paying on average sometimes 2% per month, which adds up to about 24% on an annual basis, or more, it depends on your credit card, right? So you really have to look at the usage. What am I using this credit card for? And is it something that I could pay within the short repayment cycle? You have a 30-day payment cycle. So some persons only pay the minimum payment. That's not doing anything to your credit card debt or your credit card limit. So the first thing I would advise is understanding your limit, understanding the interest rate you pay. Look at your usage of the credit card. Is it being used efficiently? And then how you're able to repay the credit card greater than the minimum payment. Also, you could look at restructuring your credit card debt. You could go into your financial institution and say, hey, can I get an unsecured loan, or can I get a loan and hive off, what we say, hive off that credit card exposure into a loan, so you can start repaying principal and interest and bringing down that credit card debt at a much lower interest rate. The next thing you can do is use the credit card to your advantage, because you get points. And you can then use those points and go into the various merchants that have, ties to the credit card, and start using those points to pay for your goods and services. That's also going to help you save on your income. So use the credit card to your advantage. I'm not saying that a credit card is a bad thing to have. In some cases, you could use it like for emergency if you need to pay a health medical bill or something. But look at what you're using it for. Is it a need? Is it a want? Is it something on the spur that you're using it for? Is it really something that you need to have right now? Can you save towards that goal? Make that credit card work for you in terms of the points, so you can redeem it instead of using your actual cash.
In a perfect world, we should all have 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved somewhere liquid, in a money market fund or savings account, so that whenever the unfortunate happens, we're good. A must-do list if your job becomes a casualty of the pandemic. And by casualty, I just mean a financial casualty. If you've lost your job, it is an emotional time, it is a stressful time, but it is also a time to make financial decisions. If your job has become redundant, you're retrenched by your company, then severance pay is a factor. In Trinidad and Tobago, the minimum severance payment is set out under the Retrenchment and Severance Benefit Act. The minimum under the Act is calculated quite simply, 2 weeks' pay at the basic rate, and that's your basic salary without any benefits. Basic rate for each year of service for workers who have completed more than 1 year but less than 5 years of continuous service. And 3 weeks' pay at the basic rate for the 5th year and for each succeeding year where the worker has served the employer for 5 years or more. Severance pay is tax exempt up to $500,000. First thing you want to do is divide your expenses into categories. And we're going to divide into 3 categories. Fixed expenses that you must be. And your must-be expenses would be rent, your mortgage, loan payments, life insurance, property insurance, if you've got to pay your house insurance, your car insurance, property must be maintained. Utilities, so your phone bill, light bill, cable, internet, utilities continue. WASA rates. Continue these payments as scheduled. Falling behind will only place you in a worse financial situation. The second category would be expenses with room to trim. And we all have some room in our budget that we can trim. This could be things like eating out, entertainment. The third category would be expenses that you can suspend. Expenses you can suspend during the unemployment period. And these would be things such as your pension contribution, your annuity contributions, monthly savings plans. Notice I said suspend, not cancel, but you're going to leave the core arrangements in place. So you're not going to go cashing in your annuities. You're not going to close off your mutual fund accounts. You're not going to close off your special savings plans or whatever you may have. So you need to make that severance and savings, if you've got some savings, last as long as possible. If you normally use your credit card for your monthly expenses, you use it for the grocery and to pay bills, and you say, well, I get points, I get miles, I get whatever, but you pay the entire balance off at the end of the month, you can continue that process. Once you pay your entire credit card bill at the end of the month, it means you're not carrying credit card debt, you pay zero interest. If that's your method, by all means, continue that method. If, however, you are carrying a credit card balance, this is a stage where you might probably want to put in a line in your budget to make some payments on that credit card. And you don't want to make the minimum monthly payment. You want to make a bit more, because at the minimum, it'll probably take you 20 years to repay that credit card. Set up interim arrangements with your banker and insurance agents in line with your new budget. Banks have been willing to accommodate people who have lost their jobs. So, go in to speak to your bank officer, see if you can make an arrangement to pay maybe interest only on your mortgage and loans for the next 3 months, if possible. If that's not possible, then maintain your monthly payments. Payments to annuities, pension plans can be suspended. They will not lapse like insurance policies. But remember, we're suspending payments. Do not cancel, do not cash out. Sometimes we get emotional. Oh, I've worked here for 8 years, I've worked here for 10 years, and they're sending me home. I don't want anything to do with this business again. I'm take my pension and go, I'm cashing out. That's an emotional response. You don't want to get emotional. You have up to 1 year to transfer the pension to another registered pension plan if you get another job within the year. Or you can leave your pension in trust until the minimum early retirement age, which is 50 to 55 for most plans. Resist the urge to take a rest. I know it's a very stressful, it's an emotional time. You're under a lot of pressure. You've lost your job. That's not an easy thing to go through. Use your time wisely. Make plans. Rejuvenate yourself with meditation, physical exercise, but don't lie in bed worrying about the future.
But that was like my first experience with money. Very, very first experience.
I've been in banking since I was a teenager.
The Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, there's a subcommittee for almost every area of the bank. So the Bankers Association, they have what you call a anti-fraud and security committee. That's just one aspect of it, where the banks meet bi-monthly and sit and discuss fraud and fraud-related incidents, so as we can see what's going on in everybody else's shop and know what's going on in the industry and put things in place to more or less protect the bank and its customers from this type of fraud. The foundation for fraud is deception. So they need to present things to you to make it look as real as possible, so as to fool the victim into believing what they are saying or what they are presenting, thereby causing injury to the victim in the context of that person parting with their goods or services and or cash. You just have to have a bank account. Even if you have no money in your bank account, you will still be used to a fraudster in the context of moving whatever money he has to move. When it comes to the business places, this is where the transactions will take place in terms of customer, goods and service, and merchant. What we saw is an uptick in what what you call point of sale machine skimming. The fraudsters have been able to infiltrate these businesses through rogue employees. Business owners need to treat those terminals just as how they treat their cash, just as how they treat their checkbooks, just as how they treat their goods and services. If you're trying to set up a website that would reduce the likelihood of fraud, I wish you all the best. It doesn't matter what processes you have. Anytime there's the human element aspect anywhere involved in that process, element interfacing with your process, that's your weakest point. Business email compromise. From the moment you get a message from your supplier, and that message has one of the three things, or all three, where they're changing the beneficiary bank, or they change the beneficiary account number, or they change the jurisdiction in which the funds are going. From the moment that is changed, I guarantee you 99% of the time, it is fraud. Now, when it comes to these smaller businesses, what you find is that they tend to be victims of check fraud. The fraudster would probably send someone to represent him or her to your establishment and identify the items that they would like to buy from you. And they would promise you, okay, I'll come back at a particular day with a manager's check to buy these goods and services. They would give you the manager's check, they would take the goods, and they would leave with it. As a business owner, you need to understand that you are not to part with your goods until you verify that that check is authentic. If you enter the pyramid scheme early in the game, where you bring two people and then those two bring another two, maybe you will get your reward as the case may be, depending on who you're dealing with. But when it comes to pyramid schemes, one of the constants, or one thing you're sure will happen, somebody's going to lose their money because the pyramid will crash. Let us say everyone who invested just stopped and stopped bringing people in. What happens to the pyramid? It stops, right? So the pyramid is only successful when you bring other people in. So you have to be able to sell and bring people in. If your card is skimmed, obviously you will go to your bank and say, listen, I'm seeing transactions I know nothing about. And the bank will then ask you to fill out a particular claim form, and they would start to investigate your claim. If while they're investigating your claim, you're getting common complaints among not just the same bank, but other banks as well, you tend to not to want to believe, okay, something is happening somewhere, skimming is taking place somewhere. What all the banks would ask the customers to do is to fill out customer complaint form, to use the general term, and they would investigate, right, to determine whether it is skimming or what transpired. Because we've had numerous instances where persons claiming that they were skimmed simply because they know skimming is taking place and they see transactions on their account they know nothing about, only to find out later on is more or less a domestic situation, right? You wouldn't have 5,000 in your account. A fraudster goes to the ATM and take out 300 and leave the rest. It don't work like that, right? They exhaust your account until everything is finished. You may not ever be able to protect yourself from point of sale skimming because you may be doing a transaction on a terminal that looks normal to you. It looks normal to the merchant, right? What I would advise customers to do is to make sure that you have online banking, so you could check your accounts immediately. Doesn't matter where you are, you have access to your account. We had the instances where delivery drivers who were going to person's home and having a dummy terminal and an authentic terminal, right? So under those circumstances where you may swipe your card at a point of sale terminal and you may get a receipt that says that the transaction didn't go through. I'm not saying that it is fraud, but you have to be mindful of those things and immediately check your account. What you need to do is that to be mindful of where you did your transaction, right? Who processed the transaction for you once you see things on your account that don't look normal. Once you're a customer that has an online banking facility, you will have what you call a two-factor authentication approach, right? So from the moment you log on to your web page, the moment you send that transaction, that entire process is protected through the two-factor authentication process. So it is safe to do your banking online. It is much faster to do your banking online as well. In this digital day and age, it is important to have a bank account. Do not allow people to ask you, or do not allow people to use your account to perpetrate fraud or pass proceeds of crime through your account because you may run into a problem with your bank. That's one. Two, we are living on social media. From the moment you have a relationship with anybody on social media, It doesn't matter whether you're speaking to that person for, as I said before, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 1 decade. From the moment that person brings a financial transaction into the conversation, whether they're asking you for money or whether they're sending money to you, 9 out of 10 times, it is fraud. It doesn't matter how friendly you are, it doesn't matter how much you trust them. From the moment they bring a financial transaction into the conversation, whether it's for $1, whether it's for $100 or $1 million, it, more than 90, is fraud, walk away.
Please register your business. A lot of people, they get wrapped up in, okay, I need my logo, I need my brand, I need my social media, and you don't register the business. And then when you actually have started operating and you go into legal affairs to get the company registered, the name is already taken, or there's some conflicts with the name, and then that has implications for the whole brand that you've built already. Also, in terms of formalizing, make sure that you keep a track of all your expenses and all of the money that you're receiving from whatever your operations are. That is also very key, regardless if it's, written in a book or whether you have an Excel spreadsheet. Please just keep a track of them. If you're a startup or if you're thinking of opening your own business, the first thing that I would say is save. And that sounds, pretty simple. If you're able to save a significant portion of what you predict your funding needs to be, you're going to be in an even better position later on to access financing to grow the business. So when you've proven your business model, maybe when you've gained a little more experience in your market, that will put you in a better position to access financing. Approach your close friends and family, ask them to invest in your business. And this is really where having the clear business plan, the well-written, strong business plan, and the business profile is really going to assist you, because it's going to tell the story about who you are and what you do. And not only are those tools going to help you pitch to your family and your friends, it could also help you to pitch to angel investors as well. So an angel investor is really someone who is highly experienced. They're high net worth individuals who will invest in your business in exchange for a percentage of ownership in your company. Angel investors have a lot more to offer rather than just equity, right? So because they have so many years of experience under their belts, they're also able to provide that guidance, provide that advice to your company in order to help it grow. What they'll do is they'll inject the capital that you need, in the early startup phase, and they will help to grow the business, advise you for perhaps a 3 to 5 year period. It would be dependent on your arrangement with them, and then they would want to exit the business to regain their initial investment, and of course any additional return on their initial investment.
As a business owner, you cannot do everything for yourself. You need to have persons on your team. If you're not an accountant, do not try to be an accountant. If you're not great at marketing, get somebody who's great at marketing. There are a lot of different tools and different needs that we have that one person does not contain all of that. So you have to build a great team around you. Focus on 5 KPIs. One would be your revenue growth, where you're tracking your sales. You're tracking your sales monthly. The next one would be revenue concentration. So revenue concentration is ensuring that your revenue is coming from multiple customers. You don't want to have one client, because if that one client goes bad, your whole business goes bad. So you need to have as many customers as possible. The next one I would look at is income sources. and that is revenue per client, per service, to make sure that you're getting as much revenue from each client as possible. Number 4 is profitability over time. And your profitability is going to look at your income minus your expenses. So what are you getting in versus what are you spending? The other important one that I would look at is working capital. And working capital is your current assets minus your current liabilities. And you can also look at that as a ratio, which is your current assets over your current liabilities. And when you calculate your working capital ratio, you would want to come out at a 1.2 to the best to have a 2. There are lots of KPIs, but I would say that those 5 are the top ones as a business owner to make sure that you're doing well on. When you're trying to do anything, when you're trying to open up a business bank account, when you're trying to get a loan, when you're trying to get grant funding, they're going to look at if you're tax compliant, because that shows that you're serious about your business and that you're doing it right and you're paying the taxes that you're supposed to. And it also shows credibility for your business when you're tax compliant, when you're registered. And then there are also certain benefits from being tax compliant that you're able to get back at the end of the year. So don't think about it as, oh my gosh, I'm just paying taxes. But depending on what type of business you have and what you're expensing, you're able to possibly get money back in.
I think education building around digital and the need and the ease with which we should be able to use digital will be key. Online banking was where we started originally, and it was a way of dialing and connecting to a system to get information. As you get into internet banking, well, we started to use more the internet. Internet became the method to connect to the bank. Of course, everyone was afraid of the internet, because if I'm going through the internet, who else is seeing all of my financial information? And of course, you provided security, and persons that have that concern around that sort of information. Digital banking really went to the next layer. Yes, it's internet related, but really the digital aspect is not just transactional natures of transactions, but actually being able to open an account or request a loan. These things, you could submit your forms online digitally. So everything is, being placed now in a digital space to transact digitally. I can sign documents digitally and I can have them uploaded. We, as Bankers Association, are working to get further refinements to the legislation to help our consumers be able to build further confidence as they interact purely digitally. Their protections, data protection, their laws to help protect the client to say, I did not do this transaction. No different to your credit card. When someone skims your card, you go into the bank and you do a chargeback and you say, I confirm I never did the transaction. We will track to see how we can, manage those situations and protect you, the client, in using those new capabilities. The efficiency that you gain by creating this digital method of operating really helps the client, who, once they learn and are able to understand how to use it, gets a comfort level. So I do understand that many consumers locally are still not comfortable with operating in a digital space. I think education building around digital and the need and the ease with which we should be able to use digital will be key. So I do want to have as a benefit out of my tenure to build the digital capability. And this is not just for banking. I think working with the other stakeholders, the various government agencies, really making it easier to do business.
Hi, I'm Adana Austin, a business coach and consultant, and I work with high-end entrepreneurs to get very clear on their goals, identify their ideal clients, and develop the strategies to grow their business. It was such an honor for me to be on Straight Off the Bat because I was able to share my message with so many entrepreneurs. One piece of advice that I would give to every entrepreneur is to stay focused, get the support that you need, and work on your mindset so that you can have the success that you want for your business. Best of luck out there and stay focused.
The first problem, you're 24 hours in a day, right?
That's so true. Balance is key. So you see, my dancing might be helping me improve my business skills as well.
It's like, but everybody needs this, right? I'm like, no, partner, unless if you sell toilet paper, not everybody is your ideal client.
But one young woman asked me to be her mentor, and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody wants me to be her mentor, right?